who was a Jew. In fact, Pakistan had a complaint that we deliberately put him there to insult the Muslim mind. So, General Jacob then later on joined BJP, became governor, and he's still there. One of these days he deserves a bigger reward, an award rather. And they were all over in a part of our society. We had never any problem. So when Israel was founded, many Indian Jews left for Israel, because Israel called people, Jews from all over the world, to come and populate their small area, because they had a very hard time. They got barren rocks and desert areas, which now they have converted into green fields and so on by their sheer brain power. But when they came back and they adopted constitution, the first session of parliament, of what they call as Knesset, they passed a resolution, thank you India, you're the only country where the Jews were not persecuted. Christians also came. They were called Syrian Christians. They were the earliest. They came to Kerala. Even Muslim Arab traders came to Kerala. We received them. They wanted to settle down, so we enabled them to marry into families, and therefore they were called Mapillai. And Mapillai means bridegroom. And the British called them Mapillai. They couldn't pronounce Mapillai, so they said Mopla. So Moplas was there. The problem arose when this confrontationist Islam and this converting Christianity came to India. That's when these divisions took place. So today we are 80%. There may be a little decline, not to get alarmed by it, because we are awake to the problem. And it's not going to be a very big decline. Probably will be 78% when the census results are published. That's because not because the Muslim marry more than one. Today the Muslim, except for these crazy love jihad types, which is partly because of our fault that we have this dowry system, which must be ended, which propels some of the poorer families to have their girls who get educated to elope, thinking that they will remain Hindus, but then they are forced after marriage to convert. But even that is stopped. But with this huge population, if you consolidate, give up your divisions, north, south, east, west, caste, all these things you give up and think of yourself as a Hindu, and not all 80% need to vote for us. If half of that, 40% votes, we'll have a stable majority for all times to come. And that is the fear. Why is there so much fear? And these liberals, intellectuals have problems, especially with me, because I don't speak in a language they don't understand. I have the pedigree which they have, which I've been to Harvard. I got a degree. I was a professor in India. They tried every trick in the book to break my back, but didn't succeed. First time was when I wanted to return. Amartya Sen was department chairman. He invited me to come and occupy the chair for China studies. I'm considered one of the world experts on China. And that's how I used to come every year for one semester to Harvard, because they couldn't find other people who could teach Chinese economics the way I could. And he invited me to come back, become a full professor. And he said, a chair has been created specially for you. When I landed in India, his tune changed. He said, you have been writing that India should produce the atom bomb. You see, that's a bit fascist. I said, how is there a fascist? So many countries have atom bombs, you don't call them fascist. He said, no, you've got to change your views. People are a little worried that, my colleagues are worried that you now also don't like the socialist model of India. I said, I don't like that at all. I mean, you can't force people to do things. You have incentives, motivate people. So finally I found this man who sent me an appointment letter, completely disowning that letter, and I was left high and dry. Fortunately, there was a selection committee for a new professor at IIT, and guess who was the chairman? Manmohan Singh. Being my old friend, he invited me to be a professor. So I became IIT professor. But then I started influencing the students. Not in classrooms, but in the hostels. They used to call me for after-dinner meetings, for discussions. And it was never me giving lecture. There were always somebody else to counter me also. But they didn't know how to counter me. They had even big tall leaders like Krishna Menon and Kumaramangalam come and debate with me. But they were no match for me, because I was a professor who read, who understood the facts, and these were politicians who didn't do any reading except have opinions. So the students began to get influenced. And then the fright struck Miss Gandhi. And so I was thrown out of IIT. And no problem. What Amartya Sen started, these people continued it, and Amartya Sen must have been behind that also. And then I couldn't get a single job in India. Now you talk about legitimacy. What legitimacy I could have had when you have been completely outcast? The only alternative I had was to return back to America, which I didn't want to do. I came for one semester every year because my teachers here were so aghast that something like this could happen. And they were no ordinary people. They were Nobel laureates, Paul Samuelson, Simon Kuznets, Henrik Hautaker, Bergson. All these people felt that somehow I should come back. I said, no, I'll not come back. I'll fight it out. I went to court. After 22 years, I was reinstated back as professor. And so I went back to the IIT after 22 years. I was cabinet minister then. So I went back to the IIT. I took charge as professor. And having taken charge, I told the director, please ask your stenographer to take a dictation from me. He said, sure, and he called him. So I said, I, Professor Subramaniam Swamy, Professor of Economics, hereby resign from IIT. So he said, what are you doing? After all this bitter fight, you are resigning. I said, what do I do? I mean, what is their professorship? It means nothing to me. The only thing left is they have to give me back all my 22 years' salary. And I'm demanding 18%, which means 1 crore rupees. And that also I had to fight a court case, but I'll win that case. In the meantime, after 3 years after my dismissal, the Janata Party came to power. And the first thing Moraji Desai told me is the fact that the IIT dismissed you. I said, yeah. He says, I'm appointing you on the board of governors. I said, what? The very body which dismissed me, you're going to appoint me? How can I sit and watch all those other people who threw me out? He said, don't worry, I'm dismissing all of them, and you select who should be on the board of governors. So for 7 years, I was the board of governors of the IIT, the very body which dismissed me. But there was this question of what to do about Amartya Sen. Finally, I got my chance. BJP came to power, and I sacked him from the chancellorship of the Nalanda University. But not only that, he has squandered 3,000 crores and produced nothing. So I've given CBI a complaint to frame criminal charges against him and prosecute him. He may not come back to India, that's no loss to us. But the fact is, all these people, the only activity they did for all the achievements they had, including Nobel laureate, being Nobel Prize winner, was to delegitimize anyone who took a line different from theirs. Narendra Modi What was his crime? Is there any FIR which says that he has committed a crime in Gujarat? Not a single FIR. The Congress party was in power. CBI was under them. Is there a single case that they registered against him? It's just slander. They slander anyone who will not go in their path of dividing the Hindus and speaking up for the minorities. What is the problem today that's going around in the country of Asaram Bapu? I want to know. I took up his case for bail and what a howl came. How can you take this man? Man has raped a girl, a young girl. Now if you raped a girl, it should show up in the FIR. But there is nothing in the FIR of rape. The police, upon getting a complaint of rape, sent her to the hospital to get an examination done, and that is part of the trial record. The trial record says that the medical report says not a scratch on the girl, no question of rape whatsoever. And yet they say rape. So how is the case continuing? The case is continuing because the girl is under 15, under 18, and therefore under the new law created called POSCO or something like that, prevention of crimes to children or whatever. The word of the accuser is prima facie taken as to be true, till proved in the trial as to be false. So she makes an allegation. She doesn't make an allegation of rape. She only says that he put his hand on me. Was there any witness? No. Did you scream about it? She says yes, but her mother was sitting outside the door, didn't hear it. Of course, her telephone records show she wasn't even there. And that Asaram Babu was also not there. He was in a marriage 10 kilometers away. And yet, a total orchestration. Rapist. Same thing happened with the Kanchi Shankaracharya. He was held responsible for murder of a priest. And I had to intercede there too. And Miss Jayalalitha did it because Miss Sonia Gandhi told her to do it. And she doesn't have the nerve to stand up because she's done so much corruption. Any central government can control her. Right now she thinks that because Modi visited her house, she'll get away. No. That case is coming up in Supreme Court. Modi can't tell me, don't prosecute her. So, I'm saying these are the techniques to delegitimize you. And the goal is, don't let the Hindus unite. That's the goal. And I'm telling you that all Hindus have the same DNA, whether they are scheduled caste or Brahmins. Why are we divided? Even Muslims have the same DNA as us. Which means what? Which means that their ancestors are Hindus. Why don't the Muslims accept that? If they say that their ancestors are Gori and Ghazni, then India is not the right place for them. We cannot tolerate that. Do you know that the British Parliament, when they created India and Pakistan, they said India will be a Hindu India and Pakistan will be a Muslim Pakistan. We have to do this to protect the Muslims who feel threatened by this large mass of Hindus in the subcontinent. So original idea was that India should be a Hindu India. And so Ambedkar said, let's have transfer of population, orderly transformation. But Jawaharlal Nehru said, no, Muslims are also our brothers, they should stay here. And this led to all this butchery. But the butchery was only on one side, largely. Because as somebody pointed out, at the time of partition, the East Bengal, now known as Bangladesh, had 32% Hindus. Today the percentage is 7%. Where is this so-called talking about cleansing that people talk about in other parts? Who talks about these Kashmiri Pandits who are driven away from Kashmir? You know the Article 370, which is a temporary measure. You don't need Parliament vote to scrap it. All you need is a presidential notification that the article is scrapped. And on what basis does the president issue a notification? The cabinet passes a resolution. And the text of that resolution is sent to the president. And then he notifies it. That's the end of 370. Why aren't we doing it? Because you've got 5 years. What's the hurry? If we do it now, you will forget it when the next election comes. So we'll do it in the last year of the election. No, it's a question on which we have to do a lot of preparation. Because there will be consequences. There will be international factors which we have to take care of. And therefore, Article 370 will go. If you had in the time when the Congress was in power spoke about scrapping 370, they would say you're communal. And it will be a permanent mark against you in your employment and other places. That is the process of delegitimization. Not to let you attend any universities, not to address any conferences. That process we are now changing by creating an alternative universe of Hindus. This conference, for example, there's no room for the liberals, that is the so-called anti-Hindu liberals. Today, we are creating an alternative universe. And that's the model which Vishwamitra followed when he wanted to visit heaven, and this Trishanku problem was there. The people said, no, the God said, no, you can't come here. You're not God. So he said, okay, I will invent a rival universe. So this coconut is an alternative fruit. In every other fruit, the seed is solid and inside and the flesh is outside. But for coconut, it is the opposite. Potato, normally fruits, vegetables grow above the earth, but potato grows below the earth. So everything he did ulta as a rival universe. Then the God said, Baba, stop it, now you come up and have a look. They surrendered. That was the power of Vishwamitra. Same thing with Chanakya. The Nanda's dynasty insulted him. So he said, I'll form another kingdom. And he got hold of this young boy, Chandragupta, who was just tending to sheep and herd, and made him into a king and created the dynasty. So we have today these models, and this is what we have to do. We Hindus may assemble, we may unite, but that's not enough. We must have an ideology to propagate. And that ideology, when we say Hindutva, that's not an ideology. Hindutva means Hindu-ness. What is Hindu-ness? How you treat your mother, how you treat your parents. It's a difference between the way we treat our parents and the Western world treats their parents. How husband and wife communicate with each other. All these are issues which are cultural and they are special. And many of the issues where they make out, oh, the Hindus, they are obscurantists, they are women, they are treated as chattel, as possessions. They'll quote something from Manu, but Manu is only a Shastra. There's no obligation for you to follow it. We have other Shastras also, Yajnavalkya Shastras. Shastras are all amendable. You don't have to accept it, you can reject it. You can take those parts of Manu which appear to you reasonable and reject those other parts. And it's not even true. I once was sitting with a friend who said, I don't think we Hindus treat women. Our Hindu tradition is against women. I said, all right, tell me, if I were to constitute a cabinet in heaven, who can I make as prime minister? He said, Brahma, of course Brahma. So, okay, what about deputy prime ministers? He said, Shiva and Vishnu. I said, okay, let's now take important portfolios. Defense. Who is the head of the defense in our heaven? He said, that is Durga. Then I said, what about finance? Such an important portfolio. He says, that's Lakshmi. I said, what about education? He says, Saraswati. I said, what did the men get? He said, yeah, think of it. I can't think of any man, God getting anything. I said, one portfolio. Information broadcasting to Narad Muni. What about Rani Jhansi? In what climate did she come? Was she a freak? No. We accepted her. Some of the biggest tormentors in today's politics are all women. Mayawati, she makes life hell. Mamta, boy, you better get out of the way. Jayalalitha, you can't tell what she would do. She has filed so many cases against me. She is sometimes my friend, sometimes my enemy. And at the moment we are enemies. I only said at one stage that, giving government to, I was speaking in Tamil. And there's a Tamil proverb. So using the Tamil proverb, I said, giving a government to Jayalalitha is like giving a garland of flowers to a monkey. So she filed a defamation case against me. Like that, there are a number of defamation cases filed for me. So I went to the Supreme Court. Now I asked the Supreme Court to cancel the criminal defamation law. And probably, at the very least, I'll get an amendment which will, which will practically reduce defamation law into nothing. I'm saying that where have we created a glass ceiling for women in our country? The women asserts the doors open, whether it's Indira Gandhi, or whether it was Sarojini Mahishi, or whether it was Nandini Satpathy, or Sucheta Kripalani, or Sarojini Naidu. Where was the block? When you go back in history, you find women have always played a major role. If it weren't for Draupadi, there would have been no Mahabharata war. If it weren't for Sita, there would never have been a battle between Ravan and Rama. Because when Hanuman landed in Ashoka Vatika, he saw Sita and he said, you sit on my back and I'll take you to Ram. She said, no, he has to come here. Why? He said, because so many women are imprisoned by this man, Ravan, he must kill him. Otherwise, I'll not leave. Rama could have said, to hell with you, I got so many women who will be ready to marry me, and gone back. Why did he not do it? Because that is the moral of the story. When Sita, all the Westerners, they twist Ramayana because they don't want the truth to come out. Rama never sent Sita to the forest. It was Sita who insisted. Because when they came after marriage from Bihar to Ayodhya, Rama told her upon entering the palace that there is a tradition to give present to the bride, and my present to you is that I will not look at another woman. You will be the only woman in my whole life. So she said, if I ever feel that because of me your legitimacy as a king is affected, I will make the sacrifice. And that's how she said that people are saying these speculative things about me and Ravan. This is bad for you, therefore I will leave. He implored her not to leave, but she said no. Finally said, okay, you stay this much so that I can make a statue of you. And when I sit in the throne, your statue will sit by my side, and I shall sleep on the floor. These are pacts which are not made out. So you have some Wendiger, Doniger, or whatever her name is. Is she from Chicago? There you are. And she'll come and say all kinds of awful things which are untrue. And people read it because our intellectual class today has been, because of the historical circumstances, We have been forced to read in Hindi, in English. We have to make a transition. It will take a little time. We are in no hurry. Because if English was not the language of the United States, by now we would have got rid of it. If it was just the language of UK, we would have got rid of it. But because the United States has now become a mighty superpower, its technology, its innovations, everything is in English, it's a convenience for us. And therefore we have a transition that you learn English, you learn your mother tongue, and you learn one more language, which is generally Hindi, but I think increasingly it will become Sanskrit. So, therefore, I'm saying that we don't care who says what. Many of our young people get agitated with our press. Who reads the English press very much? It has very little impact on our society except in Delhi. And the educated crowd which reads in English. Yes, you should fight back. And we do fight back. Often I file a case against them or send them a legal notice, and then they crumble because they know what it means. Then I'll really rake them over the coals. So I think, therefore, the core issue today for us, this fight, this battle for legitimacy, is not seeking approval of that society of liberals, but to create an alternative society which, in my opinion, is already endowed with the built-in possibility of becoming the ruling society, because of the fact that the majority today is supporting this. How could BJP come to power, absolute majority, if it weren't for the broad masses of India, a very sizable section, deciding we don't want any of that previous mumbo-jumbo that was given to us in the name of secularism and so on, and therefore voted for us. And I am making a prediction to you today, it will be impossible to remove BJP for the next 15 years, no matter how badly we perform. And if this Hindu consolidation continues, then it is ensured. For a long time it will be impossible to change it. But once having come to power, it's not enough to come to power. We can come to power over and over again. But what we need to do is to try and transform the mindset of the Indian from an Indian who feels inferior, who feels diffident, who's a little ashamed of his past, he's not able to explain. There are so many things which can be taken out of context. So some of them you should have the nerve, the guts to say, yes, it is wrong, we don't accept. We don't accept sati, we don't accept untouchability. It's there in our constitution. It's not something that our society crumbles. But at the same time, being targeted, we cannot tolerate that. There are 4.5 lakh temples under the control of the government. Does the government have power to take over the temple? No. But the government has the power to take over the financial management of the temple. That is Article 25. It says that all religious rights are fundamental rights, but subject to reasonable restrictions arising out of public order issue, public health issue, and morality. Public order, financial mismanagement is something that will lead to public disorder. So on that basis, it can take over. That was the original position. In 2009, Swami Dayanand Saraswati asked me to take up a court case, to prosecute in court, in Supreme Court, the takeover by the DMK government of the Nataraj temple in the town of Chidambaram. There's a town called Chidambaram, which is near I think on the borders of Pondicherry. And it's a very famous temple where you have Nataraj in its dancing pose, the Tandav as it's called. And there are many other aspects. It's an ancient, I mean, you can't even properly date it, it's so ancient. That ancient temple was a target of the DMK and the British for centuries, for 2 centuries at least. They couldn't take it over because the pujaris had put up a fight. But then finally they crumbled, and they lost in the High Court. So it had to be appealed in the Supreme Court. So they asked me, Dayanand Saraswati Swamiji, who is the head of the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, he asked me that you take it up. Now I went to court and must have argued for at least 3 weeks continuously, morning to evening, with all the documentation. And the judgment came not only to free that temple, but it also said what I had asked for, that if government is compelled to take over on a legitimate basis a financial management of a temple, then it must take it over, improve that financial management, and then return it back. 3 years. Now no temple can be kept in government possession for more than 3 years. How many years has Tirupati been in government control? Does anybody know here? Since 1933. How many years is that? 80 years, 82 years, correct? 82 years. There are temples which are 100 years or more.
Only the temples or the mosque or the church?
Now, we come to the question, can the same principle be applied to mosque and a church? Answer is yes. Why has it not been done? I asked the Supreme Court this question. You know what the Supreme Court of reply was? Who stopped you? We never stopped you. You bring a case to us, we will order that they be taken over. I have been hunting around asking people, tell me one madrasa or a masjid which is mismanaged, or a temple or a church which is mismanaged. Nobody has come up with it. You people here, sitting before the internet, you come across any such, give me, I will take over. No, this law is secular and can only be used for financial improvement. They have no right to allocate it as they like. You give me an example. Now in Tirupati, there is no such allocation taking place. It's all stopped. So in Karnataka, because of this judgment of 2014 Supreme Court judgment. It's a reported judgment, you should read it. In Andhra, the government had taken over, of course, 1933, and then every year they would appoint, or every 2 years they would appoint a governing body. So the governing body is chairman appointed by the Telugu Desam government, I think, before he went out of office, was a bootlegger. Appropriate, I think. A guy was, he used to sell liquor and was famous for avoiding sales tax and excise tax. And I knew him well. I have lots of crooked people who are friends, but I don't participate in their crookedness. So that's why nobody can hold it against me. But I can't stop being friends with somebody who wants to be friends. But I will not come to his defense or support him or take part in any of his activities. In politics, how can you? It's like a policeman being asked to avoid criminals. You can't avoid criminals as a policeman. In fact, you make friends with some policemen so that you get. Policemen make friends with criminals so that they get additional information, inside information. So he and Mr. Ambani decided they will gold plate the temple. And the pujaris came running to me saying, my God, this will destroy our temple because you're going to bore holes into the wall. And they have got ancient writings on it, how to do Naivedyam, how to prepare the prasadam. All these things are there, how to produce. All are written in the wall. So I called up the chairman and I said, listen, how can you do this? He said, no, it will look very beautiful, it will be a great attraction. I said, yes, but you are going to cover up all these things which are there on the wall. He said, no, I've taken a video and put it on a CD and kept it in a museum. And you can go and see it. I said, why don't you do it for the Archana also so that nobody needs to go for Archana. They go to a museum and see a CD. You have no authority. And he got angry with me, so I went to court. And the court upheld. And it was stopped. And so, I'm telling you, there's a limited power. Today, 4.5 lakh temples can be freed. My only question is to whom? You people form a committee and say, okay, we will run a temple, I'll get you a temple. An ancient temple at that. But I am not able to find people. I spoke to Dayanand Saraswati, who is now in a very bad state of health. I hope they are able to evacuate him back to India. He is in Pennsylvania just now in his ashram, or in fact is in a hospital. But he was one of our geniuses, a man of great intellectual capability. So I asked him, so he said, okay, we'll set up a committee. That has not happened so far. So don't say government control. Now 3 years, that's all. And that means 95% of the temples will come out. Of course, after that we have to have further action, because I found in Tamil Nadu, all the DMK fellows and ADMK fellows had coolly taken over temple land and built their mansions and palaces and so on. They have completely misutilized. They have swallowed the land belonging to the temples, because these temples used to have land, and then in that land they used to grow crops and sell it so that they get revenue for running the temple. It was a self-sufficient arrangement. So these people then went and grabbed the land and built their own houses. All those have to be corrected. We can have a temple renaissance only if the temple is not only for puja. Remember one thing, a temple is different from a mosque, a temple is different from a church. You know that in the United States, the VHP buys churches and converts them into temples. I'm sure you know examples of that. How is it possible? Because the church minus the cross is just a building, and it can be sold. It is sold. Therefore we can convert it. Masjid is also a place for prayer, nothing more. It can be demolished, and the Saudi Arabians demolish it all the time to build roads and apartment buildings. It can be shifted. So don't compare Babri Masjid with Ram Temple. No. And temple, you do prana pratishtha puja before construction. That means God enters the murti, and then he becomes the master, the owner of that temple. In 1991, when I was law minister, I got a call from the High Commission saying that there is an auction to take place in London. The Sotheby's were going to auction in Nataraja. And it's a beautiful Nataraja which came from a disused temple in Tanjavur. So we think that because I was law minister and the Prime Minister said, Swamy will take care of this. So they asked me to intercede with the British government. I said, why? I will not intercede with the British government. I will go to court. He said, how can we go to court? It's their property. I said, you will find out. So I sent my lawyers, that is our government lawyers, to London to appeal against this, to ask for a stay on the auction and hand over this Nataraja statue back to the government of India for it to be installed in some temple in India. And the argument by the Sotheby was that our agents had gone to India and they found that one farmer was having this, and we found that it was from a disused temple. Nobody was praying there. So we paid him 25,000 rupees. It became our property. We have brought it here. We are going to have an auction for it. So our argument was that because of Prana Pratishtha Puja, it doesn't matter whether the temple is in use or disuse. The owner is the Bhagavan himself. And therefore, anything belonging to that, you need God's permission. And these auctioneers have not got God's permission, according to my best information. So, therefore, a temple is always a temple, whether it is in disuse or whether it's demolished or anything. It's always a temple. And that principle, therefore, you should direct these people to give us the test. After much hearing, the House of Lords passed a classic judgment which you should be able to read by going to their law journals, where they said, yes, a temple is different from all other institutions. And returned the Nataraj to us, which we got installed in another temple nearby, in Tanjavur. Now, if that is so, then if there was a temple and that was demolished to build Babri Masjid, then it remains a temple. It cannot be a masjid. So, in 2002, the Allahabad High Court had asked for a commission of inquiry to go into this question, and they employed the Archaeological Survey of India, which is a Government of India institution, and they did a thorough research and came to the conclusion that there was a temple which was demolished and a Babri Masjid built on it. So, therefore, we went to the Allahabad High Court. Allahabad High Court has held the principle that Prana Pratishtha Puja makes Lord Rama the owner of that temple, and therefore it will never be possible to demolish it. And the government of India, as far back as Narasimha Rao's government in 1994, gave an affidavit that if it can be proved that there was a temple before, then we will hand over that property to the Hindus to build a Ram temple. So, we got it all done. So I decided to test the waters. I went to Supreme Court recently and I said, you have allowed a makeshift temple to do puja. But that makeshift temple was made in 1993 after the demolition, 1992, after the demolition of Babri Masjid. And now their tarpaulin is worn off and the structure is collapsing. There should be some repair. There's no parking lot. Even your shoes you have to carry in your hand. There's no shoe racks. There's no water. There's no toilet. And that under the Constitution, Article 25, it violates the reasonable restrictions imposed on public health. So you must direct the government to provide all this. Well, the government has so far, the Supreme Court has so far on my petition ordered the government to repair the Ram temple. And on 11th September, I'm expecting that the government will give parking lot, give water coolers, give shoe racks, give toilets and all that. And that means the process of recovering the Ram temple has started. After that, I will go again to the Supreme Court with documentation from Saudi Arabia that a masjid can be demolished, a masjid can be shifted for public purposes, and therefore Babri Masjid can be built across the Saryu river in another site, and this should be a Ram temple. By the way, if we build a masjid across Saryu River, we cannot name it after Babri. Who's Babri? Does anybody here know? No, not Babar. Yeah, young boy of 7 years. Why was it named after him? Well, I think in this civilized company I cannot tell. But it is the name of, you read Babar Nama, you will see it all there. It's not for all the young impressionable minds here. So anyway, that itself is an insult. Did you demolish Ram temple, build a masjid and call it Babri Masjid? Anyway, but of course there are 40,000 such temples, and if the Muslims willingly agree to shift that masjid, not only in Ayodhya, but in Mathura and in Varanasi, namely in Krishna Mandir and in Vishwanath Mandir, then we will say we forget about all the remaining 39,997 temples. These three are the key for us. Let us build it. We will help you build a masjid in an alternative site. And if the Muslims don't agree, then the government should issue a notification declaring these properties as belonging to the temple. What will happen in the Supreme Court? Supreme Court will take care, not to worry. Our petitions are pretty clear. These new facts which I am telling you today, that masjid is a prayer hall. It can be shifted, it can be built. Those are not before the Supreme Court, so I'm going on a new petition to say all these petitions against building Ram temple should be dismissed in view of this. And I'm sure that we will get the Ram temple built. I have told Narendra Modi better start by 1st January 2016. Otherwise, I will start. I don't need your government. I can do it without the government. And in this, I must congratulate the huge service to society of Vishwa Hindu Parishad, particularly Ashok Singhal and the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, particularly Mohan Bhagwat, who committed the entire organization for this purpose. So we have to do it. Why? Because we are an alternative thought society. We don't have to say, no, everybody is equal, or forget about the past. No, you can't forget the past. We can forgive the past, but I can't forget the past. Because the past can come again. Who is that? The ISIS. They have reached Kashmir's border. They are in different parts of India, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, and so on. And they are a menace. What they did to the Yazdi women, we can never forget. I mean, Hitler seems civilized by comparison, if you ask me. I think time has come for a grand alliance like we had in World War II. That time Stalin, that time Churchill and Roosevelt got together. This time, in my opinion, Narendra Modi, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the next president, whoever it is, I don't know, of the United States, must get together to bring to a final conclusion this aggressive Islam that has been gaining ground for the last 15 years. We have to give a decisive blow now, otherwise we will face the same problem we faced in World War II, that we just delayed, we made peace, and all these pieces they just tore up and got worse and worse. And I think the question is that these three countries, India, Israel, and the United States, they have a complementarity. We have manpower. I was talking to a captain, young captain. Most of the time people die in wars are captains because they lead a battalion. I asked them that, if supposing you are asked to fight a war in Syria or Iraq, would you find that beyond your call of duty? He said, no, the nation needs, we are ready. So I said, but you could suffer casualties. He said, I don't mind dying provided my family is looked after. So that is the kind of spirit our soldiers have, this deep patriotism. And if this is properly put across as an international threat, I think we as Hindus owe a favor to the world with our huge manpower to set at rest this militant Islam, which is become a curse on this civilized world, and fight it together with people who can supplement your strength. The Israelis are very good at not only electronics but in the intelligence of the Arab countries regarding the Arab countries. The Americans have the best technology for fighting. If the three combine, it will be a mighty force. And therefore, it is also a part of the Hindu revolution, which Aurobindo had predicted would come about. And or Samuel Huntington talked about the clash of civilization. Therefore, let us become Virat Hindus, that is, ready to fight if necessary, ready to retaliate if necessary. And that will give you the legitimacy, because there's no other way, no other force which can do what is necessary today when the chips are down, and that is the mindset today that we have to develop as Hindus. Thank you very much.
Should we be?
Yeah, just first tell them there is tea in the back.
Okay, so 5 minutes.
And they can take tea and people can...
Thank you, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, for a gripping talk and informing us on all the projects that you have taken on, difficult projects and succeeded, and also another point of inspiration for us, that one person who believes in the right thing really can make a difference. Thank you very much. There is tea in the back. We will go through some questions and answers now. Dr. Swamy has very kindly agreed to stick around for a little bit and answer questions. So thank you for those who have submitted them to us. Please feel free to go and grab a cup of tea as well and then come right back. Thank you.
See, paper on which all that is printed, we only print on it. But the paper has to come from abroad. And Mr. Chidambaram sent his son to negotiate with some company, I forget names, some Doolittle or some company like that in England. And that company sold us the currency paper. But our intelligence people had objected, saying that this currency paper is also produced by this company for Pakistan. And it's a private company. And therefore, Pakistan will get access to our currency paper, and therefore counterfeiting will become very easy for Pakistan. Because the watermark will remain the same. So therefore, he objected, but Chidambaram overruled it. We have not yet corrected it, but I think time has come for us to invest heavily and start printing currency paper within our own country, so that it all remains within the government.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you, Jay Mandloi, for your question. We want to take the submitted questions first, and if there is still time, we will. You had the question? You want to repeat? Okay, you have a supplementary, please.
Wait, what is got to do with it? You send me an email so that I don't have any difficulty in understanding what you are saying.
Okay. So next question is from Ravi Samhara, and this is a very interesting question, sir. It casts an innuendo, so I don't know who this right man is, but let me read it. India selected the right man for the right job, which we all understand is Narendra Modi here. Why is the right man's right hand man the wrong man? What can we do to help? I'll leave it for you to interpret who is the wrong man.
Well, it's something that only Narendra Modi can answer. We are all surprised by his choice of people for one or two key ministries. But Narendra Modi is a fast learner, so he may make a course correction very soon. So at this stage, I can't say anything more than I hope he makes the course correction fast, because the dangers to our society from a lack of talented people or people who are experts in that field handling the ministry is a big setback for us. And I think that rectification should come very soon.
So there was another one here. He asked, "What can we do to help? If there is anything that you
Well,
think."
catch hold of him in California and ask him this question. That's one way. Put pressure on him, saying that we are disappointed that in this area there has been very poor results. We think the man you have selected to do it is not the right man. That kind of thing you can do, because he is responsive to, and particularly to this young crowd abroad, he is very responsive. So you have to get hold of him and see that you ask these questions.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very pertinent. So, Ravi Sambharaji, it's upon you to reach out to Narendra Modi, and I think there are many channels available. So let's make that happen. Ma'am, we are taking the pre-submitted ones first. If the time remains, we will be happy to entertain.
You can give her.
The next question comes from Karna Desai from Bloomington, Indiana. The question is, why don't we have Hindu Sanatan Dharma schools catering to everyone?
No, we have Hindu Sanatana schools. In US, you can have, who's stopping you? Don't take any federal grant at all. But there's no one to stop you from having such schools. And but I think, you see, you should build now, you should have Hindu Sanatana schools not doing the whole coursework, because then the problem is they become unemployable when they come out in this society. So let them go through the regular schooling. But you should motivate your children at least to come for to the temple where you have yoga and Sanskrit and teaching about our religion. The temple should become a place of learning, which was the original position of the temple. Temple was a part of the educational system. And unfortunately now just temple, we go there, do puja, ask for some food from God and leave. That's not the way the temple will survive. Temple will survive if there are multivariate other activities which are not available in the normal schooling system. And that is what you need. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think that is especially relevant in this country for children, for our next generation, that they continue to come to temples and see it as a place of learning as well, in addition to the rituals and everything else. So they leave feeling like they are richer and feeling more spiritual. Thank you for the question. Here's another question. When will BJP start to prosecute Sonia's family?
Well, the prosecution has started on national level. The summons have been issued. Summons issued means a prima facie case has been established. But our law provides for going to a higher court for an appeal, and what is called an interlocutory application. And they have gone, and that hearing I have delayed because I have to come to America, and we will start on 3rd. I hope by Christmas time Sonia Gandhi is in jail, so that we can have a cake.
Okay, next question is, who killed Sunanda Pushkar?
Well, our husband certainly assisted in the killing, there is no doubt. And, but he did not inject the poison. The poison was injected by 4 people, 2 from Dubai and 2 from Pakistan, who came there on false passport, crossed identities and stayed in the same hotel. Now, who paid these people or motivated them to come must be somebody very high up, because the poison used in the autopsy, we found in the autopsy report, is polonium, probably polonium or something similar to that, which very few people in the world have. And people who have had some KGB connection, now who could be that in Indian politics who has KGB connection? I'll think about it.
We all know it, sir.
Yeah.
So, the problem was that Sunanda was going to hold a press conference and completely come out with the truth on IPL coaching. And the team that she bought, the money was not hers, the money belonged to Vadra, so Vadra's name would have come out, there would have been a big halagulla, and therefore she had to be silenced. But I must say that she did put up a fight, and that's why we found in the autopsy that her body was full of bruises. And this man, he told many lies. But there are people in both sides of the political aisle who are friends of his, who are trying to protect him. But I've got the sword hanging over the police that I'm going to court on a PI if they don't do it. So I'm expecting that soon this matter will be taken to its final conclusion. And the real master or who ordered the killing, that name would come out.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to request all the people standing here, if you've got your cup of tea, to please come back and have a seat. Thank you. Okay, next question. What happened to National Herald case?
I just said.
Is the case still in progress against the Ma Beta?
Yeah, of course. It's, the next hearing is on 3rd of September. It's almost a final hearing. And see, huh? Who? Which newspaper? You've been reading Congress Daily or something. Which newspaper can say that? Now, I remove your confusion. I went in a criminal case to the Metropolitan Magistrates Court to say that Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Motilal Vora, Oscar Fernandez, Suman Dubey, and your Chicago citizen, Mr. Sam Pitroda, they had conspired by creating a company of just 5 lakh rupees authorized capital to acquire a newspaper printing company called Associated Journal, which used to publish National Herald, but had 5,000 crores of worth of property acquired through the government concessional loan and concessional land price system, and they acquired it. How can a 5 lakh authorized capital company acquire it? So it was all fraud. All that fraud I have tabulated, and the magistrate was convinced and issued a summons, which means appear before the court. In that time, when they appear before the court, they will be arrested, they will be given bail if necessary. I will oppose that bail, but they will be given bail if the court thinks there's no harm in their being let free. And after that, trial will start. Now, at that stage, Sonia Gandhi and company went to the High Court to say that this magistrate has not applied her mind. It's a lady magistrate, has not applied her mind, and therefore the summons should be cancelled. That is now gone on for almost a year by adjournments and so on, because each of these individuals have 2-3 senior lawyers representing them. And they go on arguing for hours and hours and hours. And therefore it has taken this time. Now it has come to a finality. It would have been heard in August, but I told the High Court judge that I have to got a commitment in the United States. Last year I cancelled it. I can't cancel it this year. So please hold it in September. It will start on the 3rd of September. This is one aspect. Second aspect is that the Congress party had given loans to this National Herald company, which is called Associated Journal. That is illegal because Congress party or any party cannot give commercial loans. And so I filed an income tax case.
You want to take this?
And that income tax case is going on also under a separate act. What I find the main thing is criminal, that is the Indian Penal Code. That is one case. And the second case is income tax. Then I filed a third case. And that third case was that where did they get all this money? It looks as if they are laundering money. And therefore a money laundering case also should be registered by the Enforcement Directorate. Now that Enforcement Directorate had a director who was appointed by the previous government, was the brother-in-law of Digvijay Singh. And all he said was, of course our media is being prostitutes, they can write anything. And you being not knowing anything will believe anything newspapers write. So taking advantage of that, he had only said that Dr. Swamy has only got a summons. This summons is not final, so we will not register the case because nothing has been made out so far in the main matter, because that is still a preceding thing. That is wrong, because when summons is issued, it means that the prima facie case is established, and therefore the Enforcement Directorate is entitled to register a separate case under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, separate act. Okay, this man refused to do it. And I got angry and I wrote to Narendra Modi saying, what is this? This man has been appointed by the Congress, Jaitley is still continuing it. How can you do it? I have found that 2 days before I wrote the letter, Mr. Jaitley had given him another 3-month extension. And that was the 4th extension. It is a world record for any Indian official to get 4 extensions. See, that got of extensions. So Narendra Modi, I must give him credit. He recalled the appointments committee of the cabinet and cancelled that and told them out you go. And they appointed an officer from within the ranks, and I can't say publicly, but I am sure that that case will also be now registered by the time I go back.
I think getting reliable information from the media is definitely a big problem, and that is actually the next question from Karthik Yogendra of Purdue University. How do we get reliable information about current events as mainstream media is not reliable?
Well, you read every media. You read Twitter, you read Facebook, and then digest it all. If you don't get indigestion, you will come to know the truth. That's the way I learn. I read about 18 newspapers a day, and somewhere or the other, I will, by collating, I'm able to get to the truth.
Thank you. Okay, don't have a name on this. Dr. Swamy, thank you for such an inspiring speech. What is your take on Bollywood anti-Hindu movies such as PK and Oh My God? Should we protest against them, or should we make some
movies against them?
Something giving movies.
Yeah, some giving back type movies.
Well, if they produce a movie, you produce an alternative. We in VHS staged a drama which broke all records in terms of crowds. And that was, he called it PK, alphabet PK.
Yeah.
we had an alternative drama theatre with which we said P-W-E-K-K-E-Y. PK. See, so, and that was a challenge. Now PK has disappeared from the minds of the Indian people. Yes, they are financed by Arabs. Their Arabs are from oil money. And yes, they want to Arabize our industry. But that doesn't mean that you just want the government to do everything. You also counter it. You also run a newspaper campaign, write letters to the editor. The editors are all affected by this. In fact, TV announcers have told me that we are damn afraid to say anything against you because the Twitter crowd then finds on us that ferocious liars. So, it will have an effect. We are a democracy. We can't want banning people, shutting them up at the drop of a hat. We have to produce a counter. And you must know how to argue the counter case.
Right, it's called freedom of expression. Before the next question, which Ajayji will take, I quickly wanted to remind people to please pick up a flyer which is on the table by the door about the Hindu-Jewish Alliance event tomorrow, where Dr. Swamy will speak again, as well as Robert Schwartz, and a message from Senator Mark Kirk as well. It will be an excellent event, very thought-provoking once again. There's a reception at 4 p.m. and the program starts at 5 or 5:30.
Dr. Swamy is the keynote speaker there.
Correct. Dr. Swamy will be the keynote speaker, and the focus will be the Hindu-Jewish Alliance. So it'll be right here. So please come back for that tomorrow.
Thank you, Alkaji. The program starts at 4, the reception starts at 4, and then we will have some speakers on the Jewish side and Dr. Swamy talk from our perspective. Moving on to questions real quick since we are running out of time. Here's a question about nuclear test. How Atalji managed Pokhran test. Do we need to do one more test like that to deal with Pakistan? And I'm adding from my side, maybe China.
You mean test on Pakistan or test there? Otherwise, they don't need the data generated by the last test and the computer simulation that has taken place, we have enough. And we have maybe about 250 nuclear warheads. We are now with this Agni coming, even the Chinese can be reached. So we are well placed. The only thing now for us remaining, we are now going to move away from nuclear. We need to befriend Indonesia so that in the Malacca Strait, we are on one side, namely Car Nicobar, and the furthest point of that is now called the Indira Point in Car Nicobar. And on the other side is Sumatra, which is part of Indonesia. Now, the in-between water that flows for the Indian Ocean is called the Malacca Strait. But 87% of the foreign trade of China passes through that. So if India and Indonesia decide to police and monitor that, then China will become vulnerable. Those are the things we need to develop today, where we make it difficult for China to think that they can just walk over India, that we can make their life very miserable. That potential we have. I am in favor of good relations with China, and I personally have very good relations with China, Chinese leaders. But that doesn't mean that we should let our guard down and know that China's potential. When you see in defense, you prepare on the potential of the other, the capability of the other. In foreign policy, you go by intentions. If their intentions is friendly, we are friendly. But in defense, there is no question of friendly. If they have got capacity, I must have capacity. That kind of preparation we must do much more than just having these comrade things.
Thank you, sir. Next question, real quick. It asks about your take on Smriti Irani's appointment as the HRD minister and what role she is playing on correcting. The question says changing text. I like to call it correcting the text.
But first of all, she's a very nice lady and a friend of mine, so you don't expect any adverse comments from me. Second, she's a very bright girl. Girl I can afford to say because she's much younger than me. She's a very bright person, and she is a decisive person. She takes decisions, and she is not at all influenced by this liberal elite. And in my opinion, she's done a good job, and I would defend her in anything that she finds herself into.
So this is excuse me. This is a question. Sorry.
Second part of the question.
I do not know. Yeah. Oh yeah. The correcting the curriculum
Yeah,
part.
that's going on. It will take a little time. We need one good textbook. I've been trying to persuade government call Rajiv Malhotra to India and make him sit down for a year and make him chairman. But bureaucracy is still an inherited bureaucracy, and I'm not in charge, so I have to tell the minister do like this. This time, fortunately, Modi reacted. Otherwise, if there was any other type of prime minister, this fellow Katoch, who was in the enforcement directorate, would have been, just removed like that. You see, he may have been warned, said, be careful, don't do like this, don't talk like that, something. But what Modi did was encourage us. I was very impressed. So that kind of thing, not every minister is like that. See, they chhod do bhai bahut hai, there are enough problems. So that's not a thing. But this is a project dear to the heart of the Hindutva people, and therefore it will be achieved. It may take 2 years.
Thank you, sir. This is a question from Mr. Satya Pawan. He has asked 2 questions. I'm going to take only one because of the time. You talked about your own TV channel.
Yeah, I did.
Do you have any plans for that?
I have. Last time I came here, everybody said, we'll donate. Don't worry. I said, I need 20 crores. Yeah, 20 crores, we'll give you 40 crores. I went back, got a license, started it, and put my own money of 2 crores. And not a paisa came. I put it on website, not a paisa came. So I closed it. So you asked our NRIs who promised me that they will give money. They didn't give me money, and first of all they have to give me 2 crores before I get money. Why, Ambani, then you control my curriculum. I can't allow that. He's a very bossy guy. You see what he has done to CNN IBM. Which media is foreign controlled? I had only one case when Hindu newspaper had some Siddhartha Vardarajan, he was a US citizen. I got him removed.
She's probably referring to the investments from the church, etc., into the
No,
stock.
those are all your propaganda. There's no substance.
Why is it so anti-India then?
They are anti-India because they are pro-Pakistan.
So
That has got to do more with emotion than money.
nothing can be done about
It can be done. We have got lots of other alternate means. I mean, you can't go around like a hero. People, let them express their view, they get exposed. And our younger generation is hammering them every day. Marka Dutt is all the time complaining to me, please tell your Twitter not to be so harsh on me. They are really brutal. She is, she's married to own sir. I mean, not Indian, but Pakistani Muslim. And Shashi Tharoor was also loafing around with some Mayor Karaj or something like that. Have you heard of the girl's name? These are Pakka ISI. But nobody said anything. Because he talks on both sides. He's now playing nothing will happen. I'm there. He can't come to BJP.
tomorrow.
So, I understand your problem. We are the big sufferers because we are all the time slandered. Okay? But at the same time, you see, the broad masses of India, how can these media were so powerful, how can Narendra Modi have become Prime Minister? I want to ask you.
Right now, they are not talking well about Mr. Prime Minister Modi.
So what? That is permitted in a democracy, no?
That is risky now.
No, it's not risky. In a democracy, that is allowed.
All the lies of Rahul Gandhi get more publicity and
ठीक है, but I am also doing propaganda. Nobody is controlling me. Even when they were in power, I was doing it. So 2G, do you think 2G happened in Modi's term? It happened when they were in power. So I don't like this. I don't want this trend to continue. We are not going to control any media. We are going to, if you can call, make an alternative, make an alternative. But nobody is supporting the alternative. I told you I tried to start a Krishna TV and I had to close it down. Because people all want, they want fast food. So they are like spectators, who ruin the career of Sehwag by telling him, one more sixer, And he ruined his batting and he's out of cricket now. See, we can't do that.
All right. Next question. This is regarding the economy. Do you think Indian rupee is going to depreciate further, and what does that mean to us?
Well, see, I can't. Mr. Jetli is in charge of finance, and I told him many times, rupee can be raised. Rupee should not be more than in the first year more than 38 rupees. And ultimately, we have to slowly work it out so that by 2018 or 19, we should make it rupees equal to $1. That is the kind of thing we should target. But he listened to that Raghuram Rajan, who is a mad fellow from Chicago. Yeah, he is a professor here.
He was my teacher, sir.
He was your teacher, okay, to survive, good. So, he has got in his mind that you must raise interest rates to control inflation. All right. I told him that when you raise interest rates, the investment also is discouraged. Who's going to pay these high interest rates? So he said, no, we have to control inflation. That's the only way. He said, you talk like a doctor who thinks that the best way to bring down the temperature of a patient is to kill him. Once he's dead, the temperature will come down. So economy is dead. So inflation also comes down. So I think these are things which I can't predict because most of these are due to these participatory notes. I said abolish it. Finally, SIT agreed with me and told the government that if you want to control black money, abolish participatory notes. But immediately Mr. Jetli went on press conference and said, no, it will not be discontinued. So then I have to write a letter now to Modi and see whether he will intervene or not. But I can't write upon everything a letter.
So it loses a little bit of its effectiveness,
right? Corruption issue, because I got the name as a corruption crusade. So I write a letter on corruption. Modi has to take it seriously. But if I run economics and say, oh, he has his own view, that fellow has his own view, people say, if you have two economists, you'll have three views, that sort of thing. So I don't know whether, but one day I think we have to take a call, otherwise the economy will collapse. We are heading for a crash, if you ask me.
Okay, the last question comes from Suptik Mukherjee. What can we do for our West Bengal daughters?
Yeah, I think it's a serious thing. You see, I think problem I'm tied up so much with these corruption cases and so on in Delhi that I'm not been able to devote attention. We have a very strong VHS unit in Bengal, but there is the BJP unit in Bengal is not persuaded that Hindutva is a necessary
worthy cause.
They all want to appear to be liberals. I don't know why. So that we have to overcome that. And second thing is, you see, this is not an issue on which you can take it as one more activity of yours. Because Mamta will not spare you. She'll go after you, she'll put you in jail, she'll create all kinds of problems, then the mobs will come to you. So it's a full-time thing. It's like dealing with Jayalalitha. I left everything and went and sat in Madras. That's how Jayalalitha went to jail on that issue. So this is such a big issue. You have to find somebody who is willing, and unfortunately everybody wants to be a liberal. Everybody wants to be a good boy or a good girl, whatever. And I think the people who have to be really mobilized are the RSS people. Because they have a cadre and they have a commitment to the Hindu cause. So they should be urged to do it.
Yes. Thank you for the suggestion and ideas. Have a good suggestion from Mr. Rohit Joshi ji for 2 photo opportunities. One with the whole group, and before that I'd like to invite all the speakers to come up to the stage so we can get a picture with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. So if you could please come up, and in the meanwhile, if all of us that are present could please assemble down here in the first few rows. Then once this picture is done, then Dr. Swamy and the speakers can also make their way down here, and we can get a nice group picture as a wonderful memory of today for all of us. I'm sure that Ajay ji will make sure that it gets on a website somewhere.